Hey everybody, and welcome to Developer Q&A. For today's session, we want to introduce two new enhancements to the Web SDK. So the first is enhanced image capabilities, and the second is an introduction of layers now accessible via the Web SDK. So I'll quickly highlight from a high level what both of these are, and then we'll do a quick demo. So first, enhanced image capabilities in the Miro Web SDK. So now you can with confidence, know that a URL will be returned for all images on a board when you retrieve it via Web SDK. So in the past, if you pasted an image onto a board or dragged it onto a board, depending on the source, the URL might not have been accessible, but now we will always expose that absolute URL. We've also made another enhancement around data URLs, so now via the Web SDK, you can obtain a data URL representation of an image on a board to make it even easier to work with these kinds of assets. The second feature I want to talk about is the layer capabilities. So you may be familiar with Miro that you can send certain items behind another one or bring them to the front of a board. It's kind of like a Z index, and now this is accessible via the Web SDK as well. So you can send items behind one another. You could select a group of items and position them somewhere in this Z index, so to speak. So let's go ahead and take a look at both of these capabilities. For the first one, regarding enhancements to images via the Web SDK, we can simply test this out by opening up something like the Google Images plugin, and we can go ahead and drag an image onto the board. Just ignore these errors in the console for right now. I'm going to find an image of some kind of pug, and I'll drag this onto our board here. And now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and fetch this item. So for example, if we go ahead and grab this item using this code snippet, and then we check the item like this, you'll notice that we have the absolute URL right here. And this is, not a huge enhancement, but it is a change in that you're now always going to see this here. In the past, this may have been empty if the image was simply dragged or pasted onto the board. So the next thing I'd like to show is related to the data URL. So for this, we can go ahead and using that same image, we can actually construct a data URL. So for this, I'm going to go to our docs and show you exactly where you can find this method. So if we go to our changelog entry from today and follow the link for the Web SDK reference images, let's take us to image, and then here we can go to get data URL, and this is the code snippet you can use to get a data URL representation of an image on a board. So what it does is it first fetches the image item, and then it creates a data URL variable and calls the getDataURL method in the Web SDK, and from there it creates an image using that data URL. So we go ahead and copy this, go to our console here, and we can actually just paste this in, and you'll see this returns the data URL for this image that we dragged onto the board from Google Images. So you could click on this and it would download. So a very easy way to manage and download assets from a board. The next thing I want to demo is related to the layers, or Z-index, if you will. And this, I'll use this same image and I'll just drag like a sticky note or something onto the board here. And I'll place this right on top of our pug friend. And now I'm going to show a quick example of how you can basically send the pug image to the front or the back of the sticky note. So we've already got our image item, as you can see here in the console. So what we can do is we can say await image item, and then call the send, or I guess it's bring to front method, which is one of these new methods. And when we call this, it should place the pug in front of the sticky note. And you can see how that works quite easily. And we can do the same to send it back. So, send to back. And that's how we can kind of manage the z-index here. If we go to this changelog entry, you can see that there's a number of different methods for the z-index here, or the layers capability, and you can use both a single item or a selection of items or an array, and you can bring in front of certain items by specifying a target, or behind certain items. So it doesn't have to simply be bring to front or send to back. It can be somewhere in between, depending on the needs. You can also call the getLayerIndex method to see where a certain item sits in the number of layers, and that would return a number. So if the item you're calling is in the 6th layer or something, it would return that number. Just a very quick example, but something for you to consider when you start building your next Web SDK app. That's pretty much it for today's Developer Q&A demo. Happy coding and enjoy these new capabilities.